I now give the floor to the representative of Russian Federation.
Mr. President, we're pleased to see you in your seat, and we wish your country a successful presidency this month of January in our council. We also welcome all of our new colleagues who have joined us as of this year. We are very pleased at your participation. We're prepared to cooperate closely and fruitfully with you. We'd also like to thank our American colleagues whose presidency in December was very successful and effective. I also wish to thank the Special Representative of the Secretary General for West Africa and the Sahel, Mohammed Ibn Chambas, for his briefing. We share the concerns voiced by you, Mr. Chambas, regarding the further deterioration of the security situation in this part of the continent. We are especially concerned that in the Sahel, the geographical area of terrorist activity, drug trafficking, and organized crime is expanding. Extremist ideology regrettably continues to attract new adherents. Tragic reports are arriving nearly weekly about underground groups claiming the lives of dozens of military personnel and civilians in various countries of the region. In the recent period, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger have been particularly hard hit. We reaffirm our full support to these countries in combating terrorism and express our condolences over the latest terrorist attacks in the region, specifically in Niger. At the same time, it is important to remember that the threat of destabilization hangs over the states of the Gulf of Guinea as well. Who is at fault for such an adverse development of the situation? As we have seen from today's discussion, views differ on this issue. We're, of course, not arguing with the fact that the region faces such fundamental problems as weak governance, intercommunity and interethnic confrontations, insufficient protection of human rights, and climate change. All of these issues must be addressed. However, if one were to look back not just at the past 1 or 2 years, but say the last several decades, it is clear that these phenomena are not something new, and that local authorities have by and large been able to mitigate them. We are convinced that the real trigger for the current unprecedented crisis were the reckless actions of those who wreaked havoc in Libya, using military force to overthrow the legitimate authorities there. If the situation there is not stabilized, and this has been rightly pointed out by many regional stakeholders, it will hardly be possible to achieve peace and stability in the Sahel. Eradicating terrorism is one of the top priorities for African countries. In that connection, the efforts of states in the region to counter growing threats are extremely timely. This is particularly important in a context when terrorist groups are increasingly actively coordinating their actions. We support the pledges made by the member states of the Economic Community of West African States at the recent summits in Niamey and Abuja to mobilize funds to combat jihadists. We share the view that the G5 Sahel Joint Force and the Multinational Joint Task Force against Boko Haram require additional international support. On our part, we are providing African states assistance through bilateral channels. At the same time, it is clear that military means alone are not enough to eradicate terrorism. It is necessary to effectively counter the expansion of extremist ideology, to begin addressing acute socioeconomic problems, strengthen state institutions, foster a culture of respect for human rights. In this regard, we attach great importance to the implementation of the United Nations Integrated Strategy for the Sahel, as well as the activities of the UN Office for West Africa and the Sahel. We hope that the parliamentary and presidential elections slated for 2020 in a number of countries in the region will take place under conditions of law and order. We welcome the successful conclusion of the second round of presidential elections in Guinea-Bissau. We hope that they will turn a new page in the country's history, leaving instability and political turbulence in the past. In conclusion, we wish to once again assure you, Mr. Chambas, that Russia will continue supporting your personal efforts as well as the activities of your office in resolving regional crises, addressing issues related to political mediation, and providing assistance to improving state institutions, searching for ways to further economic development and combat extremism and terrorism. The scale and the results of your work deserve the highest praise. Thank you.
I thank the representatives of Russian Federation for his statement.